Yo, what's going on, everybody? So today I am making a video talking about how to stay on track with your nutrition during the holidays. And this is pretty relevant right now. The day that I'm recording this video is the 25th of November, so it is Monday. So this coming Thursday, the 28th, is going to be Thanksgiving. And then, as we all know, shortly after Thanksgiving, Christmas comes, and then shortly after Christmas, New Year's comes. So this next like 4 or 5 weeks, the last like 4 or 5 weeks of the year, are generally pretty busy with family events and parties and all those kinds of things. And obviously, with social events like holidays and parties comes food. And one of the things that I used to struggle with a lot, like when I first started with like my weight loss journey, and that I'm getting a lot of questions from in my personal training client base, is how to enjoy these social events while at the same time helping and not taking too many steps away from the goals that they have in hand, right? Like they're dedicated to the goal that they're trying to hit, but they don't really want to necessarily alienate themselves and isolate themselves during these social events. So what we're going to talk about today is how to kind of handle these social events and what you should be focusing on with your nutrition. Some of these things are going to be physiological, and some of them are going to be more like mental and emotional things that you need to think about. But it's just going to kind of be a list of tips and things that hopefully you guys can take and apply so that during this coming and then all future coming Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's parties, all that kind of stuff, you guys can kind of not go into that environment really stressed about overeating and kind of putting yourself into a hole and kind of taking a step backwards from your goals, okay? First things first, if your goal is to gain weight, you're somebody who's like a hard gainer, you have a very fast metabolism and you're struggling to put on weight, you say you're naturally scrawny, then these holidays are a golden opportunity for you to really get some calories down, right? Like we all know that grandma isn't making her mashed potatoes with like low fat butter and all that kind of stuff. Like she is packing the good stuff in that food. And obviously, as she should, and with that kind of stuff that gets put in her food, like there's going to be a significant amount of calories, right? Now, if you're somebody who is struggling to gain weight, then that's what you need. Is you need caloric density. You need a lot of calories. So the holidays are nice for people who are trying to gain weight and who are hard gainers with slow metabolisms, because I just kind of tell people cut loose and have fun. And I mean, I really tell kind of people the same thing for weight loss too, which we're going to kind of get to in a minute. But again, if your goal is to gain weight, like just eat, man, and enjoy and spend time with family and eat and eat and eat, and then put yourself in a food coma, and then after you wake up out of that food coma, like go back for round two. Like just eat, man. Like this is really a golden opportunity for you to pack some good calories and help get your weight up. So now, obviously, if your goal is to gain weight, you don't really have a lot to stress about during the holidays. Where the holiday stress kind of stuff comes in is more or less for people who are trying to gain weight. Exactly for the same reasons that I just mentioned. A lot of the foods that you're going to be eating at these social events are very high in calories, and they pack an extreme amount of caloric density. And so, obviously, we know in order to lose body fat and facilitate fat loss, we need to be in a caloric deficit. And obviously, eating foods that are extremely calorically dense does not help put us in a caloric deficit. And so it kind of becomes a stressful environment and how to deal with holidays like that. But we're going to kind of go into some things now to kind of help you relax and kind of chill out. And speaking of relaxing, that is tip number one, is just chill the fuck out, man. Like, you have to understand that if you go into, like, say, let's take three circumstances, right? Like Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, and potentially like all your other Christmases. But for the sake of this example, we'll talk about Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, and then New Year's Day. So we're talking about 3 days. We're talking about 3 days over the course of the next 5 weeks. So we have 5 weeks is 35 days. If you eat off track for 3 of those days, we're talking, let me pull up a calculator real quick and do some quick math. Like if you are off track for 3 out of your 35 days, that's only 8%. Like that's hardly anything at all. The point that I'm trying to make is you have to realize that going off of your plan for one day means, unless you like completely overdo it and you eat like 15,000 calories or something, like, and you literally eat yourself sick like on that day, it's going to have almost no impact at all in helping you reach your goal. Like I give this example all the time, kind of with clients is, let's say you eat 5 times a week, and you eat 5 times a week, and then obviously there's 7 days in a week, so that's 35 meals in 1 week, and say you have like one cheat meal. Like if you go 34 for 35 over the course of the week, like you're pretty much like in fucking line, like with reaching your goals. Like realistically, that one bad meal that you had does not outweigh the 34 good ones that you had. Now, the problem with that kind of scenario is most people are kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, is they have like 1 or 2 meals a week that are of legitimate like quality substance, and then the rest of them are just garbage and bullshit. But it kind of wraps up the point that like going off for a little bit like really isn't gonna have like that much of an impact on you reaching your goal. Now, where it can lead into a real problem is when Thanksgiving Day turns into the day after Thanksgiving. You're like, oh man, I already cheated, so I'm just going to continue to cheat today. And then December 22nd, you know that Christmas is coming up, so you start to go off plan. And then the 23rd, you go off plan. And 24th, yeah, it's Christmas Eve, fuck it. And then obviously Christmas, you go off plan. And then that just continues. So where the trouble really happens is when these individual days and these individual settings, they snowball themselves into longer periods of getting off track. And that is where the real damage comes in. So my next tip is that you need to be as perfect as you possibly can leading into the holiday, and then immediately after the holiday or that social event, you need to get back on plan as soon as possible. And if you're able to do that successfully, then the risk of going off track and then having that snowball into something that is really legitimately going to set you off track for your goals is actually pretty low. And that's what I call the fuck it mentality. And the fuck it mentality is kind of the mentality where you say for breakfast you go out and you have a donut with your wife, and then you kind of think like, fuck it, like I've already cheated today, so like instead of eating chicken and rice for lunch, I'm going to eat a cheeseburger and fries. And then instead of eating steak and potatoes for dinner, I'm going to eat, candy bar. And, you get where I'm saying. Like the fuck it mentality is where you mess up once and then you kind of throw caution to the wind and you just let it snowball and you let it steamroll into something a lot more. The goal should be damage control. So you go into an environment like a Thanksgiving or a Christmas or a New Year's, like knowing that what you're going to do is going to it's not going to be perfect and it's not going to be in line with your plan, but your goal is to minimize the amount of damage that you do, which is where we're going to kind of talk into some of the other tips. Eat like a fucking adult and do not eat like a 5-year-old. And what I mean like that's a phrase that I use like all the time. I actually say that to my girlfriend every once in a while when whatever, she's eating something like random. I'm like, you're eating like a 5-year-old. Eating like an adult and not like a 5-year-old means like when you go to like your Thanksgiving or your Christmas Day party, you don't eat like a little bit of ham, a little bit of turkey, a little bit of potatoes, and then you get like 3 plates full of dessert. Like make some smart choices when you're at the Thanksgiving or the Christmas, whatever the social event is. Like make some smart choices with the food that you're going to eat. What I like to do personally with myself is like I'll get a plate and I'll fill the majority of my plate with meat, whatever the protein source is there, whether it's turkey, ham, whatever. And obviously the benefits of that are twofold. We know that that protein is an extremely satiating macronutrient, so by eating lots of protein, you're going to feel full. We also know that there are no metabolic capabilities to store protein as body fat in the body. I mean, technically there are. We can convert amino acids into glucose and then use de novo gluconeogenesis to convert the glucose into fatty acids, whatever. Don't want to get too scientific. But that's very hard on our body, and our body doesn't like to do that. So if you're going to overeat in something, overeat in the meat, overeat in the protein, because the odds that overeating that protein is going to be stored as body fat are extremely low. And then I will do like small amounts of carbs, and then if there's vegetables, then I'll obviously eat the carbs, or excuse me, eat the vegetables as well. I'm not a huge veggie guy, but I'll eat them just for something else to help kind of fill the stomach. But make smart choices with the food that you're going to eat. Like I said already, like don't stock up on the desserts and completely ignore the good stuff. Like, and by good stuff, I don't mean tasting. I mean like health wise. So just completely make good choices. And then if you have room left, allow yourself to have the desserts that you like. But instead of having 12 cookies, you have like one or two, or one piece of pie instead of half the pie. Like, give yourself the foods that you like, but give yourself enough to get the taste and satisfy the craving, and then move on. And go into it with a mentality that like you're not going to be eating like this is the last time that you're ever going to eat. So again, that kind of wraps up the don't eat like a 5-year-old. You can imagine we've all been at social events where we've seen 5-year-olds who are just stuffing their face with desserts and stuff, and hardly even touching their solid food. But that's kind of the situation. If you find yourself extremely food focused, especially on sweet things, like you can find yourself in that position pretty easily, where you're just like stuffing your face full of sweets. I remember with my I think it was the first year. So I had lost like 100 pounds in the first year, and I was extremely food focused. And then we have a 4th of July party at my parents' house every year. And then like one year we had scotcheroos, are what they're called, which are like they're pretty much Rice Krispie treats with chocolate over them. If you're from the Midwest, Illinois, you know what scotcheroos are. But my mom always makes those. And like that year I was super food focused, and I had like a little bit of eggs, and then like no bullshit, I ate like 15 scotcheroos. Like my mom had the scotcheroos in the house, and we were all outside talking, and I was like sneaking into the house and eating scotcheroos because I was so food focused. And I literally had the mentality of like, if I don't eat these scotcheroos today, like I'll never eat them again, which is obviously like that's a different topic for a different day, like talking about your relationship with your food and how you mentally and emotionally connect with food and establish your relationship with those things, which I don't want to get into too much today. But the point I'm trying to make is chill out and eat like an adult, and eat whole, solid, single ingredient foods, and then enjoy the desserts that you want, but don't go crazy on them. And then my final tip is kind of get your priorities straight. And I think this is really relevant with me, and this is something that I've kind of taken for granted my first couple of years getting into the fitness industry and kind of getting into bodybuilding, is especially with me, like I have two sides of my family. I have multiple, obviously, as everyone does, multiple sides to their family. But with myself personally, I have two sides of my family where, because of the distance, the only times of the year that I ever get to see them are Thanksgiving and Christmas. So when I am at a social event, like with that side of the family that I never get to see, like your priority and my priority, what it is now and not what it used to be, your priority should be focusing on being in the moment and like making memories with, as corny as this sounds, making memories with your loved ones and establishing relationships with your loved ones that you get very small amounts of time with already. And you need to be focusing on those things and not focusing on the food, because again, like again, as corny as this sounds, like when I'm with my family, the sides of my family that I only get to see like 1 or 2 times of the year, we could be eating like, I don't know, we could be eating salad, and like it wouldn't fucking matter, because like it's not the food that makes as much as food is part of a social event. It isn't the food that makes the event, it's spending time with your loved ones and spending time with your family. So like I said, like we could be eating like grass, we could be eating like it doesn't matter what we're eating, but what I cherish and what you guys should really be focusing on in that time is spending time with with people that that you care about and people that you don't get a lot of time with, because that really is what ultimately matters at the end of the day. That's the whole point of these social events, is to come together as family, come together as friends, and make memories and have fun, and obviously eat some food while you're doing it. But you don't want to let the food like completely consume the event and how special that event is. All right, guys. So those are most of my main tips for how to stay on track with your nutrition during your holidays. We'll kind of recap real quick. Eat like an adult. Don't eat like a 5-year-old. Be perfect leading up to the holiday, and then get back on plan as soon as you can afterwards. That's going to help prevent the snowball effect. Make smart choices while you're at the event. Eat a lot of meat. Eat a lot of vegetables, and then eat your carbs and eat your desserts. Let's see, what else? Relax, chill out. Like, just understand that going into the situation, like, even if you go absolutely crazy off board, like, it really isn't going to set you back that far. So you can kind of go in like mentally relaxed. And then finally, get your priorities straight and understand that this holiday it's all for spending time with your family, and it really isn't for the food. Even though food is part of the social event, then that isn't really the main focus of the event. So if you guys have any questions, obviously feel free to comment on the video, follow me on Instagram, send me a DM, whatever. And if you guys have any questions,